And we'll head into what's actually going on right now. And general thoughts, big takeaways. The president has been speaking in London so far. Richard Haass, your concerns, your takeaways.
Well, the president has a unique style of going into summits. Even before this summit began, introducing new tariffs against France, so essentially escalating the trade war with them. Also, unilaterally introducing new tariffs against two countries in Latin America for allegedly devaluing or artificially manipulating their currencies when there's no evidence they were doing that. Mm-hmm. This is an administration that's essentially sanctions happy and tariffs happy.
Yeah.
They love the economic instruments of foreign policy. They don't, not so much diplomacy, not so much the use of military force. And I think the largest story in Europe is, to use my favorite word, a Europe or a NATO in disarray. The president went after Macron this morning, to some extent fairly. Macron, had a really unfortunate interview with The Economist about 2 weeks ago, calling NATO brain dead. But there's real divisions with Turkey, real divisions about how to deal with Russia. President keeps hammering the Europeans for not spending enough on defense. But what essentially we're seeing is this alliance that was pivotal to get the United States and the West through the Cold War for 4 decades. Increasingly, there's no consensus, and consensus politically is always the foundation of an alliance. And the president has, to use the word of the day, a very transactional approach to alliances.
Absolutely.
Rather than thinking about strategic purpose, he constantly has a ledger and basically asks, are others paying enough,
He's
rather than
focused
saying
on money.
Rather than on saying whether we are getting enough out of it, which is something very different.
But apart from the question, isn't there a transitional situation in Europe as well? Because Macron's stepping back. Merkel is stepping back, and Macron's trying to assert himself as kind of the new man of Europe.
He is. The problem is France alone is not strong enough to do it, and France doesn't have a European partner. Originally, it was going to be Germany. Merkel said no thanks. The Merkel era is essentially over, as you say. And, with the Brits, essentially, I think Brexit is almost a foregone conclusion now, given the election on December 12th, the illiberalism we're seeing in Hungary and Poland, the crazy government in Italy. Europe is going through actually its single most difficult moment since the foundations of modern Europe after World War II.
Joe.
But Willie, again, it seems every political move Donald Trump makes on the world stage benefits Vladimir Putin. Here we have him once again going to a NATO summit, once again attacking NATO allies, once again undermining an alliance that was actually put together for the purposes of holding Russia and Russia expansion in check. And on top of that, he started even more trade wars when the tariff taxes that he's imposed on working class Americans is really starting to be felt in this economy. We've got a manufacturing recession for the first time in a decade, and every economist says that's because of the tariff wars. He said it was that these trade wars were easy. It's proving to be just the opposite, and yet here we are this morning with the president expanding those trade wars even more.
Yeah, and at a time when these alliances are frayed anyway, as Richard said, when Europe is shaky on its own, you have the president coming in and shaking it up a little more. There is some irony in President Trump's criticism, although it may be well-founded, as Richard said, of Macron, saying Macron's being disrespectful to NATO, which has sort of been the role of President Trump through the years, including up until about yesterday.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.